Theresa May right now is trying to sell Brexit to her parliament and to the people. And despite the fact that them always, saying it's not in the national interest, well, Chequers isn't in the national interest, Brexit is, but they say that Brexit isn't in the national interest. And despite that, Theresa May comes back with, yeah, well, we have a legal obligation. That's why we need to do this deal. We need to give them 39 billion euros because we have a legal obligation, even though it's not in the national interest to go through with this deal. We don't have a legal obligation. That's complete bullshit. And as Jacob Rees-Mogg said, and as other people have said, Theresa May lies. What she says and what she does, they don't align. And he's actually threatened to write to the 1922 committee and get her removed as a leadership challenge. If they get a certain amount of signatories, then there will be a leadership challenge. And I can tell you right now, with the amount of people resigning right now, there will be a leadership challenge. Theresa May has destroyed Brexit. She's worked with the EU, she's worked with Merkel, even as Merkel announces an EU army, a proud EU empire, ruled by Germany. Is that what your granddad fought for in the war? So you could lose free speech, so you couldn't be able to speak to each other, so you could be massacred in the streets, not even call out the problems, etc., and then give away all your sovereignty to the unelected EU run from Germany and Hitler's daughter. And there are still people in this country who think that Brexit is not a noble trait. I still have to kind of fight it when I'm talking to people. Brexit is a good idea. If it was working properly, if it went through properly, it's a perfectly noble idea. You tell me why the EU is liberal. Tell me, find a way. Show me why the EU is liberal, why you believe Article 11 and Article 13 increase liberal values, why you believe anything that they've done with Greece and the IMF, austerity packages imposed on country after country and all the farmers' targets and quotas that they couldn't possibly meet, so they ended up losing and wasting so much fruit and food, etc. Tell me why it's liberal. It's not. Look at what they did in Catalonia when the Spanish police come and clamped down. They did nothing. Tell me why it's liberal. Tell me why Eddie Izzard tells me why I'm supposed to like the EU, why I'm supposed to want to stay in it, and why Brexit is so terrible, because these people like Brexit and these people like Remain. Tell me why it's liberal. You can't. And it's very strange in Parliament now. We're aligned, the left and the right, we're aligned on this deal being a terrible deal, on this destroying the country, on no one agreeing to it. But it's not Brexit that's the problem, it's Chequers, it's Theresa May. It's not Brexit that's the problem. The Brexit is the one that people want. It's a noble trait, and like I said before, they will give away everything about their culture to get Brexit, to get the safety and security that they need, to get the sovereignty that their ancestors fought for, and the freedoms that we've just given away. We just allowed Theresa May to just sell out, capitulate everything and call it negotiations. If you want to piss on your forefathers' gravestones, then you can virtue signal with Eddie Izzard. Then you can go along to these street marches and anti-racist protests and so on and say, yeah, we love the EU, they're so wonderful, they're taking away the fucking internet. Yeah, we love the EU, they're so liberal because they're getting an EU army to stop member states leaving and imposing a dictatorship, a military dictatorship, because they're so liberal. They've got so many regulations and quotas that no one can follow them except the big corporations that can employ people to follow every single regulation they can selectively enforce on the small businesses and shut them down because they can't possibly follow all the overzealous regulations. They're so liberal. But apparently, according to Labour, it would be a bad thing to leave the EU because the EU is so liberal, isn't it? Just like, Diane Abbott is so liberal for wanting to censor the internet and stop people talking to politicians entirely. They're going to cut us off from talking to each other because we're too awake now. We don't trust the establishment too much now, and they're going to stop us, just like Facebook has become a gulag, just like Twitter is starting to cut people off, and gradually all of the apps, all the things that we're allowed to use, everything is being bought up, by Soros, etc., Netflix, PayPal. PayPal have now just cut Tommy Robinson off, and they're going to cut more people off. They keep getting away with this illegal action because we keep saying it's legal. And if they keep getting away with it now, they'll keep expanding it, and they'll keep doing it, and they'll keep getting away with it, because we don't seem to be able to hold anything back. Right now, the Senate is being stolen in America for the Democrats, and we don't seem to be able to do anything about it. Brexit has just been completely betrayed and destroyed, and we can't seem to do anything about it. We've just been betrayed by all our puppet leaders, and we can't seem to do anything about it. We know who funded Remain, we know who's funded the caravans and the NGOs, we know who funded the migrant crisis, we know who's destroying the world, who's bought up PayPal and cut off InfoWars and is encouraging censorship, etc. Soros, but we can't do anything about him. We're fucked.